Our top focus on the show, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to attend the May 9th parade in Moscow to mark the 80th anniversary of Soviet victory in the Second World War. The parade will take place at Moscow's Red Square. Well, Russia's state agency TASS, citing a source in Indian military circles, reported that it was highly probable that the visit will take place. As per the military source cited by TASS, the issue of participation of a ceremonial unit of the Indian Armed Forces in the parade is also being worked out. Prime Minister Modi had last visited Russia last year in October at the invitation of the Russian President Vladimir Putin to attend the 16th BRICS summit. The summit took place in Kazan under the chairmanship of Russia. Moscow has already said that Chinese President Xi Jinping has accepted Russia's invitation to attend the commemorations of the victory. The Kremlin said in December that it had invited many countries to attend the Victory Day parade in the Great Patriotic War. Last Friday, US President Donald Trump told journalists at the White House that he would not travel to Moscow, saying it was too soon to travel to Russia. The invitation sent to world leaders for the Victory Day parade assumes greater significance as it comes as efforts to end the war in Ukraine gains momentum. And well, for more on this, our assistant editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, is now joining us on the broadcast from New Delhi. Hi, Siddhant. News just coming in that Prime Minister Modi is expected to attend Moscow's Victory Day parade on May 9th. First up, talk to us about the significance of that and how it further strengthens New Delhi and Moscow ties.
Well, first talking about the Victory Day parade. Now, this is an annual event which marks the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany, and it's a pretty important event for the Russians. It is celebrated every year with all the pomp, with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, being present at the Victory Day parade. Now, essentially, this time around, we know that the Russians have sent invitations to India. Something that has been happening in the past as well. In the past, the Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has attended Victory Day parade, and always there has been an Indian representation at the Victory Day parade, including most of the time by the Indian ambassador. Now, we know that TASS has said that the Indian Prime Minister is invited, and of course, there are reports by them saying that the Indian Prime Minister could travel. What is the Indian stance? As of now, there is no comment by the Indian stance, by the Indian side, that the Indian Prime Minister is going to travel to Russia for the Victory Day parade. But we need to contextualize it by pointing out that first, last year, the Indian Prime Minister was in Russia 2 times. First, of course, for the bilateral visit for the India-Russia annual summit, and then of course for the BRICS summit. And this year we know that the Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to travel to India for the annual summit. The relationship between the two countries is very strong, hinges upon defense being the key pillar, also energy, with India importing the Russian energy. But we also know the context of the war in Ukraine. Right. We know that it looks like the Trump administration is pushing for peace. India could, of course, see its role. India has been pointing on dialogue and diplomacy. And in this context, if the Indian Prime Minister travels, it will be a very important visit.
Right, Siddhant, I was just coming to the point you made there, that the probability of Prime Minister Modi travelling to Moscow comes amid talks of ending the Russia-Ukraine war, which has in the past few days gained momentum. And like you also mentioned, we've seen how India has remained committed to peace throughout the Ukraine-Russia war.
Well, correct. In fact, the Indian Prime Minister very early on had told the Russian President that this is not an era of war, a line that reverberated globally, which was pointed out by many European leaders, including by the French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, India has been sending humanitarian aid to Ukraine. It has been supportive in terms of the visit of the Indian Prime Minister to Kyiv, which was a significant moment for Europe and for Ukraine, the leader of the world's largest democracy, present in wartime Kyiv, is a symbol in itself. And we know that when it comes to the Indian action at the UN as well, India has been abstaining, but pointing out that how the war has impacted the global south, especially in terms of the prices, the food, fuel and the commodity prices, the insurance prices, that has impacted and destabilized a large part of the global south. So in this context, we know that India's voice matters. If the Indian Prime Minister travels to Russia, and before that, if we see some kind of peace accord, a ceasefire coming, it will be significant in many senses.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Thanks very much for joining us on the show and sharing your insights with us on this.